Since Season 1, there has pretty much been a universal consensus that the KAR98 is the best sniper to use in Warzone. I mean, it's fast, it's reliable, it hits like a truck, pretty much everything that you want in a sniper. But there might be a new competitor that's seeking to take the KAR's throne, the TUNDRA. Since the integration of the Cold War guns, the TUNDRA's been considered one of the best snipers to use, but it never really seemed to outpace the KAR. That is, until now. This all started a few days ago when I was playing a game of duos with good old Dressy Golf. We had just dropped when I picked up a purple ground loot Tundra, and let's just say the thing slapped.
Located Tango.
Now, I hadn't really ever given the Tundra much credit before, because I would main the KAR, but this thing played almost exactly the same, if not better. But with all of the endless online debate about which guns are good and which guns are trash, and this poor guy who still uses the HDR, I figured it was finally time to put it to the test and find the best sniper in Warzone. Now, before we begin, quick disclaimer. I am not by any means a great sniper, so take everything that I say in this video with a grain of salt. You don't have to like exactly the same guns that I like, and that's fine, that's what Warzone should be about. But I tried to approach this video from the perspective of just delivering the facts about exactly how well each weapon plays. Obviously, there's going to be some opinions sprinkled in there, but at the end of the day, the only thing that should matter is the actual statistics for each gun, and that's what I'm here to deliver. When considering a sniper rifle for Warzone, there's pretty much 4 things you want to consider: ADS speed, bullet velocity, overall damage, and scope magnification. Now, if you've been playing the game for a while, most of those things should sound familiar to you. But for all of those noobs out there, here's a quick rundown. ADS speed is, quite simply, how long it takes to aim down the sights of the gun. The faster, the better, because that means you can get to killing that much quicker. For sniper rifles, ADS speed tends to be a lot slower than other guns in Warzone, anywhere from half a second to a second and a half. Now, if you're planning to mostly use a sniper rifle for long-range engagements, ADS speed doesn't really matter. After all, if the enemy can't hit you, it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to hit them. But with that in mind, most players still tend to run quickscoping loadouts with their snipers, favoring faster ADS so that the weapon can still be used in close-range engagements. For this reason, the KAR98 has always been the weapon of choice for quickscopers, because it has relatively low ADS speed, even without any attachments. Bullet velocity is another hugely important statistic for snipers. To put it simply, it's how fast the bullet leaves the gun and reaches the target. The faster the bullet velocity, the less you'll have to take into account the movement of your target and the distance between you. Now, just like the KAR98 was known for its quickscoping, the Tundra has always been known for its insanely high bullet velocity. Overall damage is pretty self-explanatory, simply how much damage the gun does at different ranges. Both the KAR98 and the Tundra are pretty similar in those aspects, with the Tundra having a slight buff at long range. Finally, another self-explanatory statistic, scope magnification. The more magnification you have on your scope, the easier it'll be to see and hit your target. It's also important to take into account that most snipers in Warzone have sniper glint, which will allow the enemy to see you from a far distance when you're scoped in. Some shorter range scopes, like 2, 3, or 4 times, will completely negate sniper glint and they won't have any. Now, with all of those boring statistics out of the way, let's get into the guns themselves. For this video, I was comparing 5 different loadouts, 3 from the KAR98 and 2 for the Tundra. The first KAR98 loadout is one that you've probably seen hundreds of times. Monolithic suppressor, SynGuard custom 27.6-inch barrel, TAC laser, sniper scope, and F-TAC sport comb stock. This next loadout is almost identical to the previous one, but with a different optic. I personally like to swap out the 7x sniper scope for the 3.25 times thermal optic. I find that the thermal optic gives a huge advantage in spotting enemies, plus the smaller magnification is actually a bit easier to deal with in close range engagements. Plus, since there's no sniper glint, you don't have to worry about enemies spotting you from afar when you're constantly ADSing trying to look for them. For the third loadout, I tried my best to build a long-range KAR98. For this one, I kept the monolithic suppressor, I kept the 27.6-inch barrel, but I swapped the optic for the variable zoom scope, which goes between 4x and 8x, just to get a little bit extra magnification. For the underbarrel, I threw on a bipod to get some extra stability when crouching or prone, and I also threw on the granulated grip tape just to add even more weapon stability. Finally, we get to the first Tundra loadout, which is an insanely long-range build. I threw on the sound moderator to get a little bit of extra damage range and conceal the sound. The 29.1-inch combat recon barrel adds additional bullet velocity and damage range. And the ultra zoom custom optic goes all the way up to 20 times magnification, which is quite frankly more than I think you'd ever need, but I was trying to make this thing as long range as possible, and that thing makes it so that you can engage in shots of up to 1 kilometer in-game. Finally, we throw on the front grip to negate a little bit of recoil, and the 7-round speed mag to add some additional ammunition. Last but certainly not least, we have my version of a quick scoping Tundra. For this one, I did my best to try to recreate the purple ground loot Tundra that I had picked up, because that thing had insanely quick ADS time, and I wanted to try to capture that as best as I could. So for this, I kept on that sound moderator. I dropped the barrel size a little bit to the 28.2 extended. That one still adds a bit of bullet velocity, but it's not quite as cumbersome as the 28-inch. For laser, I threw on the 5 milliwatt laser sight, which helps with ADS speed, and I also put on the marathon stock, which helps with sprint to fire time and ADS speed. And finally, the speed tape, which again, you guessed it, helps with ADS speed. Now that we've gone over all of the attachments and loadouts, just how do all of these guns stack up against each other? Well, first and foremost, let's start with the quick-scoping KAR98, but more specifically, the one with the thermal optic. Since I started sniping in Warzone, this has been my go-to sniper, so I might be a bit biased with this one, but honestly, it's still very viable. Its quick ADS time makes it so that you can engage at almost any range, and the thermal optic is ridiculously helpful at spotting enemies. Even if they're running cold-blooded, it's still pretty easy to spot them through this scope. It has a bit less bullet velocity than something like the Tundra, but you're not really going to be pushing super long-range engagements with this anyway. It has just enough bullet damage that it's a 2-shot kill to the chest, so even if you're not the most accurate with your shots, you can still absolutely destroy with this gun. This gun had the fastest ADS speed out of any of the guns that I compared, clocking in at 0.366 of a second, which is ridiculously fast for a sniper. This means that if you have the skill to quickscope, there's no reason that you can't absolutely dominate while running this loadout. Now, since I was such a huge fan of this thermal optic KAR, I figured I would also be an equally huge fan of the 7x sniper scope variety, but for some reason that wasn't the case. And I don't think it was the ADS speed, because the sniper scope version still boasts an incredibly fast ADS speed, clocking in at just under half a second. But something about this one just felt a little bit off. It doesn't seem to hit as hard, but I just overall didn't play as well while I was running this loadout. Now, a lot of that could just be attributed to my poor skill as a sniper, because so many people still claim that this is the best loadout and the best sniper to use. And I'm not doubting that the gun has some good qualities either. It still is an incredibly good sniper, but it just didn't feel great. Next we come to the long-range KAR98 that I tried to create. And honestly, this gun was an absolute flop. I don't know what I was thinking trying to build a long-range KAR98, because that's just not what the gun is built for. There's no way it could compete with something like the Tundra. It doesn't have the bullet velocity, and it doesn't have the damage range. So even on the rare occurrence that I did manage to hit somebody with this gun, it wouldn't even take their armor off. What's more, the ADS speed was a lot slower, clocking in at just under a second as compared to the under half a second versions of the quickscoping variety. That means that you're not going to win any close range engagements with this thing because it is so much slower than the other versions. If someone is already shooting you with an assault rifle or an LMG or even an SMG, you're probably going to lose to them because it takes so long to get your scope lined up right. All in all, I would say that this gun was the worst of all 5 that I looked at, which could be attributed to my fault since I built the loadout, but I really did want to see how well the KAR98 could do if optimized for longer ranges, and it just really can't pull the weight that a longer range sniper like the Tundra can. Next, we have the 20x scope long range Tundra, which right off the bat, I was expecting to be absolutely terrible. I mean, 20 times magnification is a little bit excessive, even for a sniper. There's no reason you would ever need that much magnification unless you're taking shots from a mile away, which you're never really going to have the visibility to be able to do in Warzone anyway. However, I was honestly pleasantly surprised by how good the gun was. Immediately after getting it for the first time, I got this kill. And even though the 20x scope was incredibly cumbersome, it still played exceptionally well. And being a variable zoom scope, you can still turn down the magnification, even though you're still going to get that big ADS penalty from the size of the scope in the first place. Really, my 2 big gripes with this gun were the massive level of magnification and the incredibly slow ADS time, which clocked in as a little over a second, making it the longest ADS time of any of the snipers that I looked at for this. The gun itself still plays very well. The Tundra has some great base stats, including bullet velocity, and the longer barrel really helped to add to that. But the movement speed penalties and the slow ADS speed really felt like it kind of tanked this gun for me and made it a lot worse than it could have been. And lastly, we come to our final loadout, which is the Tundra quickscoping version. This loadout I tried to build as similarly to the purple ground loot Tundra as I could, which meant putting on attachments to maximize ADS speed and kind of ignoring any attachments to buff damage range, bullet velocity, or stability. I was curious how this was going to play out since the Tundra itself has great bullet velocity and damage range, but I was worried that the quickscoping attachments might make it a bit too shaky and unreliable to be used as a more stable Tundra loadout. But let's just say I was completely blown away by how well this gun played. It had what I would consider to be the perfect balance for a sniper. Amazing bullet velocity and damage range, allowing you to hit headshot kills from incredible distances, but also being fast enough that it's not completely useless at close range. Obviously, if you're getting rushed by someone with an SMG, this gun isn't going to do it for you, but at the same time, it can still be used pretty reliably within 100 meters. The ADS speed for this gun came out to about half a second total, which is nearly identical to the ADS speed of the 7x sniper scope KAR loadout, which was just under half a second. Yes, the KAR is a little bit faster, and even faster if we switch to the thermal optic, but I don't see this as making a huge difference in the grand scheme of things. So this Tundra is completely viable to be used as a quickscoping option. Personally, I used it as more of a quick, long-range sniper, but it really has a ton of versatility and it can be used for so many things. In my opinion, this Tundra loadout finally takes the crown and actually knocks the KAR98 off of its high pedestal that it's sat on pretty much since the game came out. Now, I know that I'm gonna get some people that don't necessarily agree with me on this, and that's fine. At the end of the day, all of the guns should be balanced and viable so that everybody can use what they enjoy. But regardless, I hoped that this helped provide some good information onto what sniper to pick, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment down below which sniper is your go-to weapon for Warzone. Anyways guys, that's gonna do it for today. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.